Good morning, and today I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by the man who I consider to be the godfather of team coaching, Ralph Peters. And Ralph is the forerunner of a lot of the work that I do in UpAGear, and has established that process. Great team coach, a man that I go to for bits of wisdom all the time, and he never fails to come up trumps. And Ralph's the author of the Total Team, and the reason we're catching up today is that sometime soon he's got a new book coming out. So welcome to the UpAGear podcast, Ralph. And yeah,
thank you, Dave. Only reason I'm the godfather is because I've been doing it longer than everybody else. I think it's an age thing. The team leadership is something that I've just bounced into back in 1990 and have loved evolving all the way. I'd love to think I'll always have all the answers for you, but I don't think I will. The book that you're referring to has process in it. And it's a process, the Total Team. It's a process that when it's followed will work. It will help teams perform to much higher levels than they're currently performing. And the next book, which is possibly my last, but The Essential Leader's Guide, How to Build a High Performing Team, has a significant focus in the middle of it on the team leader. I've been doing this since 1990, and you know yourself that quite a lot of team leaders hope that by hiring a performance coach that they'll turn up with a black stick with white bits at either end and wave a wand. And one of the things that I've discovered on my journey, logically it's not a surprise, but emotionally putting it right is a challenge, is that the person that needs to change most in the team is the team leader. And they need to get an acceptance that, to be the leader, to be the role model, it's me that needs to change, not everybody in the team. Now, that isn't black and white, but that's the area that is frequently missed out.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sort of drawn to the that sort of classic Gandhi quote there. It's be the change you want to see in the world. And there's lots of quotes in and around that, but it is just so true, isn't it? I come across it time and time again with teams where the team leaders saying, yeah, we could do with a bit of coaching. And you drill in, where's the issue? Well, so-and-so's new into role, and they're new into this, and they don't talk about themselves.
That's so right. And most team leaders, and this isn't a bad thing, most team leaders, and it would include myself when I had a proper job a million years ago, were appointed as the whatever, due to their results. Yeah. And frankly, if you're the team leader of your own business, the reason that you are the team leader is that you're the one that's led us to getting these results that require a team around us, rather than just the small business that you started as an entrepreneur. So the role of the team leader is not to be having everybody doing what I used to do. That would be lovely, but if they could do what you used to do, they wouldn't be with you. They'd set up their own business. They'd be running. They'd be the chief exec already. So the role of the team leader is to create the environment. It's to achieve better results through harnessing the efforts of the people in their team, not to be asking them to be doing the job the way that they used to do it. So you've got to admit to yourself that you don't have all the answers. That would be a first step as being a team leader. I'm lucky to be here. I'm fortunate to be here. I'm lucky I produced the results, but now I'm going to be learning. That would be a great place to start.
Yeah, and I mean it's fascinating. Even in large businesses, isn't it? So somebody gets promoted based on what they've done. And my background was in retail, so I was a precocious, arrogant young store manager, and back many years ago, and you got promoted to a regional manager, And then actually you can't do is go around and manage a region in the same way that I manage stores, because it was completely different.
Sorry. Sorry, that's wasted. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Should have had that off.
No worries.
Just now.
But you can't. You have to evolve and change, and actually, the leadership becomes more important than whatever skills that you had at that particular point in time, and gradually get to the point where you're no longer an expert because you're not doing it every day.
Well, frankly, you're in a new job, and the new job is different to the old job. And all great leaders, they've got loads of things in common. One of them is a thing called humility, and humility you don't smell humility around people who are driven by their ego or feeling terrific because they've just had this great appointment. Yeah. So we need to get those two things closer to each other. You think of loads of famous names, whether it's Alex Ferguson or Clive Woodward, Nelson Mandela, all sorts of well-known people. They all have a vision about how they want to be playing. And there's nothing like what they're doing at the moment. So it is the first step. Vision is not a number. It's how we're going to be being, how we're going to be perceived by our customers. What are our customers going to be saying about us? What are our staff going to be saying about working here in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time? It's not a number. And then the values, I've probably told you this before, but I've worked with some very big organizations on values, and the whole workshop with the directors was about making it sound good and look good. It was nothing to do with how they intended to behave. Values are about how we intend behaving, and they typically are quite strong. They're very clear, and it means that some of us in the team need to make some changes. If we're not making changes, we're not making changes. That's not an Irishism. We're not going to be getting any better. So I advise any team leader, other than to buy my books, but to get a hold of Jim Collins's book and learn about level 5 leadership and realize what that means. And it does lead to us realizing that we've got an awful lot to learn, not just changing other people. So.
Yeah, and I really like what you're saying about, whether you get that sort of intent about saying, yeah, we've got to come up with our values, and it can so easily just come up with that there is just a generic set of words that appear that could apply to just about any organization anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's no emotional connection whatsoever. There's no intent from that team to do really anything about that. And for me, the big sort of X is going off at that particular point in time. That's saying, here we are, we're really missing the point. I actually quite like teams that come up with values where there's something quite almost twisted and personal about the way that they come out, but people will say the words and they start immediately making that their own personal emotional connection to it. And when you're getting that, you've got them on the right sort of track, I guess. So Ralph, what compelled you to write book 2? If you're saying, well, book 3 is possibly not going to happen, but what compelled you to write book 2? What was the?
Well, I'm still coaching teams. I absolutely love it. I love the opportunity to help them make the most of themselves. And for the 4 or 5 years after I'd written my book, I gained greater experience and significant insights just to improve the learning from the first book. But most specifically, what is in the Essential Leaders Guide is the leadership bit, is the piece about the leader themselves. And there was I hadn't included that in my first book, and it is if the leader wants change, then the first change has got to take place here with the leader. Self-mastery is what the leader's life should be about. becoming excellent, not just driving out results. And self-mastery is a habit. It's a way of living. It's a way of working.
Yeah.
It's not a destination. So somebody once said that self-mastery is becoming a master of what you do know and becoming an apprentice of the things that you don't know yet. And so if you're fresh into a team leader's role, or you've been in the team leader's role for a long time and you're highly frustrated, then look at yourself and look at the areas that you might not know enough about or you've not tried and tested yet. And that would be my strongest piece of advice. And where most things will lead to will be your ability to polish whatever levels of emotional intelligence you currently have. It's an area that most leaders are not saying they don't have emotional intelligence. They just don't see it as one of their assets. And it's too easy for a leader to feel that I've got to do everything. I've got to this and I got to that and that I was appointed to do this. And the ego that is driving the I there will inhibit true success. There's no question. Ego can drive us to get great results, but it would also inhibit us from getting the most out of ourselves because it prevents a direct connection with the world around us. Mm. We build up unconsciously a mindset that says we're better than we truly are. And frankly, when we're walking around thinking we're better than we truly are, we've stopped trying to get better. But we don't realize it because the time is filled with emails and meetings and people who are not living up to my expectations. Yeah. So my time is still full of frustrating things, trying to get better results, but it's not full of me trying to get better results out of me.
And that sort of sense of busyness that gets in the way, quite often that is fueling the ego as well, isn't it? Because, oh, look at all these emails that I'm getting that's about this, look at these conversations. But when you look at the actual the content or the real sort of intentionality around what the leader is doing at that point in time, they're really not leading.
You're absolutely right, not leading. I can't give away the organization, but there's a chief financial officer of a very large organization in London who I work with, who I've had the good fortune to have successes with. So she's kept me on for quite a considerable length of time. However, I have to admit that it's taken me 3 years to help her recognize that her busy paradigm will hold her back completely and forever. And now she has a paradigm that she has a mindset that says, I've got time for the important. And so things are beginning to change around her. If she was being interviewed here, she'd be laughing and saying, you're absolutely right, because the reason she's laughing is it's taken so long for her to accept that she doesn't have to pay attention to this, doesn't have to pay attention to that. But if she'd just work with the finance director and get more out of him, she'd be less busy. And it really is that simple.
And you can as a leader miss really important things by being too busy because you're actually going down too many rabbit holes.
Yes, yeah. You're into the detail rather than developing other people, and that just goes back to becoming an apprentice of the things that I don't know. And one of those is coaching. We're not going to be talking a lot about coaching, I guess, this morning, but a lot of people think coaching is sitting having a chat rather than learning the soft skills of listening and questioning and challenging and questioning and listening, rather than listening to understand what I needed to understand and ask them to do something that they're not currently doing. It's getting them to recognize what they need to do that they're not currently doing, when they recognize it, a bit like the lady I've just referred to, then it's easy. Well, it's easy for them and therefore less frustrating to you. But a great leader will be a coach. There'll be someone who's constantly trying to get more out of someone, not more results, but more performance. We all know that the bottom line is results. You know, it's plus or minus this, or it's X% more than last year. Or everybody understands that. You don't need to worry about people understanding that one. Yeah, you need to worry about people understanding how they can make a change. And if you're the leader, it's you understanding that I should be looking for, where do I change? Where do I need to change to get more out of my people?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's, and that concept of change, quite often we end up going for the easy change as opposed to the hard change. I love the work of Michael Bungay Stanier, the author of The Coaching Habit. And I was listening to a talk by him recently. He was talking about easy change and hard change, and he was saying easy change is really translates as know and do. Yeah, so I learned something new, and then I can execute it and do it, and that's pretty sort of easy. Hard change is about be and do. It's around, I have to, I've got to behave differently. I've got to suddenly realize that, and actually I might, in that behaving differently, have to stop doing more things than I'm starting doing. And that's infinitely more difficult, and quite often that transition into that team leader position, or that that higher team leader position than where you were before, or the CEO position, whatever that is, involves that. It involves that, and yet the default position is, what's the know and do? What don't I know at this moment in time that I need to know in order to be brilliant? Yeah, you probably know actually everything that you need.
I think you've hit one of the nails on the head there of all of us in new leadership positions. Is we work from the know and do. Yeah. Working from the behave and do is a challenge, because we've managed to get our position through what we knew and did. But to shift my behavior, first of all, I need to shift my mindset. I need to shift my beliefs. And shifting a belief, especially if it's a deeply held one, is very, very difficult. There's a couple of guys who wrote a book called The One Thing. One of them's Jerry Keller. And Jerry Keller said that you need to find a coach. Whatever you're doing, you need to find a coach, because you'll be hard pressed to find anyone who achieves extraordinary results without one. And that's what a coach does. A coach helps people identify what their current sets of beliefs are. And from those current sets of beliefs, it clarifies why they're really good at doing certain things and why they're not very good at doing other things, because they have a belief that says that doesn't work for me, or it's not the right way to do it. When they should change the belief, then the habit becomes easier. One of the things out of COVID that people who know me well will laugh now, that I have learned, is I have learned that life is easier when I'm more patient.
Are you developing patience, Mr. Peters?
The mindset. I had somebody stay with me last week, one of my super sons, because I'm currently repairing from a broken leg and ankle, so I can't climb a ladder. So he's come up and done some painting and decorating for me. My old approach with some of the things he did and the way he did them, I'd have been interfering, and now I'm happy as Larry, because I have changed a belief. Now, let's not get into the painting and decorating and a father-son relationship. It is simplistically, I have shifted the belief. The belief now is, does it matter? Yeah, does it matter? And as a leader of other people, if I was back in a proper job, I would be saying to myself, does it matter that Dave is not doing it the way I would have done it? Does it matter? Yeah, that used not to be me. Once you change the belief, the behavior change is easy, and performance will shift. Yeah.
And fundamentally, there's a big shift from that sort of managing into leading at that point, isn't it? Managing is almost trying to channel people into the way that I would have done it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And leading, as you say, is that coaching piece of saying, we know where we're going. You know where you're going, where you're going. You've different skills to me. I'm really excited to see how you get there. Yeah.
Something that people who I'm individually coaching, they all use this approach, and I can't remember where I bumped into it. But I've found that they go, honestly, do you do that every day? And I go, 9 days out of 10, yes, I do. But where do you find the time? I said, well, it only takes 3 mouthfuls of cornflakes to do it. So, yeah, instead of looking at your phone during your cornflakes or whatever it is you do first thing in the morning, you can't do it whilst you're brushing your teeth, because I use my right hand to write and my right hand to brush my teeth. But you can do it. It only takes 3 or 4 minutes, and that is to make a note. And what this provides you with patience, by the way, is to make a note of what you appreciate, what's gone well in the last 24 hours. And you could appreciate a million things. You appreciate just living where you live, or having the dog that you've got, or having the partner that you've got, or having the kids that you've got. You can appreciate those things, but you can appreciate having completed the 4th chapter of your new book yesterday. You can appreciate the fact that a client phoned in and said, it was ages since we did some work together, whatever it is. You can appreciate all sorts of things. It's not a massive long list, but what you're not doing is you're not making a note of what you didn't appreciate yesterday. You're not making a note of what didn't go well yesterday. Yeah, because that's already hanging around in your head.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy way to adjust your attitude. The next thing you write down is you make a decision as to what your dominant feeling is going to be today. You actually make a decision as to what that's going to be. And I've got my bit of paper sat in front of me here. And mine says go at it, because I've got a number of personal things to achieve today, as well as some business things. So my mindset is go at it. I can't remember what yesterday's was, because I've thrown that bit of paper away. But it just make that decision. And then define what's going to cause this to be a good day. 4, 5, 6 things at the very most that's going to cause this to be a good day. And frankly, if you're working in the city in London, getting home at a sensible time and enjoying the evening with your partner is something worth writing down as part of the complete way in which you're working. Making sure that XYZ person has been read the riot act or whatever it is, write those 4, 5, 6 things down. And then just write a quick signature to yourself that what you're going to focus on today, and that includes enjoying it, enjoying doing what you're doing. It's very simple. It really is. It takes, when I wave mine at you for today, that's all it is. It's a scribbled note to myself. I've got a plan for the day. I know where it fits. Yeah, and with the part-time lifestyle I have today, I still do it. Yeah, because we've got friends coming tomorrow. If I don't cut the grass today sometime, I'll be annoyed tomorrow that the grass hasn't been cut. It's that crude. If I don't make this call to this person today, I'll be annoyed tomorrow that it's still on my list to do. So, for me, if I was leading a team now, I'd be leading them better by operating that way. And there's no one I work with as an individual who doesn't do that.
Well, I've got to say, having sort of run teams for years and years and years, and led teams for years and years and years, and then having spent the last 7 or 8 years doing the work that I do and that we do now, I've learned so many things over that period of time. If I went back and had another go at it, it would be very different.
Hey, you'd make a proper job of having a proper job.
I might just do that, Ralph. But hey, I enjoy what I do now far too much. So
yeah, exactly.
That's great, Ralph. So I think we've covered the new book, and so what next for you?
Something else I learned through a pandemic is that I can't give up work. I don't want to give up work. It brings me meaning to my life. There's a couple of people who would wish I would give up work, but it doesn't take up the whole month. It only takes up a short part of the month. I've been doing one team I'm working with. I'm still having to work with on Zoom, and that's working really well, considering you haven't got the bonhomie of walking off to the coffee thing at the same time and so on. By the way, when I'm coaching teams as well as individuals, I try and get them to discover what it is that brings meaning to their lives, as opposed to I'm paying the mortgage, I've got a good salary, and my new company car is fantastic. Those things are all really important. I wouldn't minimize them. However, the knowing, as Simon Sinek, I don't know if you read or listen to Simon Sinek on YouTube, he refers to it as find your why. For me, it's just that simple as for the rest of my life, what's it about? What's my purpose? Why am I here? We don't need to go on a mountain and sit cross-legged, to accomplish that. We just need to stop and think about it. So what's next for me is carrying on.